This is the Dave Ross Show. It's a pleasure to have in the studio documentary filmmaker Ken Burns, who's going to be giving you about 2,000 of you anyway, a sneak peek of his new series, National Parks: America's Best Idea at Benaroya Hall. We're told that there might be some standing room available if you want to go. Welcome to Seattle. This is a 12-part series, right? How do you,
6-part, 12 hours.
12-hour series, right? How do you find 12? The photography is beautiful. How do you find the 12 compelling, suspense-filled hours to do about national parks?
Well, you know, the first thing to say is that it's not a travelogue and it's not a nature film. This is the story of people. We'll introduce you to about 50 people from every conceivable background, ethnicity, who fell in love with a particular place and spent their entire lives trying to set it aside. So what you have is a human drama set against the backdrop of some of the most spectacular scenery on Earth. It happens to be the location for an intensely interesting human drama that reflects utterly American themes and tensions and undertows. There's villains and they're heroes, they're fools, there's a great emotion, there's love, it's one of the best stories I know. It was a completely radical idea. We invented it. For the first time in human history, we had to say, wait, these are not just the provinces of the rich or kings, but for everybody and for all time.
You mean there were some people who thought the scenery wasn't enough, that there needed to be oil wells there or something?
That's exactly right. And if we didn't have national parks, we wouldn't have bison, we wouldn't have a lot of other species, but we'd also have a Yellowstone park that was sort of an amusement park. You'd have a Yosemite that was a gated community. You'd have mansions lining the rim of the Grand Canyon. This represents an equally American impulse, that we could stop and have a view of how we once were. The Garden of Eden that Thomas Jefferson in his agrarian vision still imagined we'd always have, and which just a few generations after Jefferson, we realized we were in danger of losing completely. And we only have a tiny fraction of our landscape that's been set aside in these spectacular national parks.
Were there any national parks that almost did not happen?
Oh, almost every single
Every
one.
one of them.
Every one of them.
On the basis that somebody wanted to mine there or drill there.
It's so interesting. The very first national park that was given to the state of California was Yosemite. In 1864, in the middle of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln signs into law. But the junior senator from California, John Conness, stood up and said, "This is utterly worthless land," meaning we weren't going to find any gold here. There wasn't spectacular timber, even though it has the most beautiful free-fall waterfall on the continent and these amazing polished domes. And many people think the most beautiful spot on Earth. It's worthless. And they had to sell Yellowstone in exactly the same way. It's worthless. Please don't worry. The volcanic stuff has rendered it without mineral value. It's too high for grazing and for farming. The timbers, sort of the lodgepole pines, aren't like the best for... You know, please believe us, it's not. And even then, the complaints were, let's go.
So that was the strategy. Make it clear this is worthless land. Do you do you have an agenda for this series?
Not at all.
You're just trying to show how beautiful it is.
Stories.
You're not trying to expand the amount of land set aside for national parks.
You know, this film begins in 1851 when the Mariposa Battalion walks into what is now Yosemite National Park. It ends basically in those Alaska Acts of 1980. We're in the history business. We're not in arguing how many snowmobiles or guns should be in Yellowstone. But we think that this is an incredibly human drama, that it was a good idea, the best idea we ever had. We're in favor of that.
What was your breakthrough moment when you said, I can make old photographs interesting?
Well, you know, the background is my dad was an anthropologist, but he was an amateur photographer, and I remember my very first memory is watching the photographs come alive in the darkroom. So there's already mystery. And I decided, you know, early on I wanted to be a feature filmmaker. I wanted to go to Hollywood, and I ended up at a college, Hampshire College in Amherst, Massachusetts, and all my teachers were social documentary still photographers. So they were interested in the power of individual images. And I didn't feel, as my colleagues often do, that I want to wait until I get a newsreel where it's moving for it to be real, or I'll reenact it. I just wanted to trust that I could go inside those photographs and treat them like that feature filmmaker I wanted to be, a master shot that has a long shot, a medium shot, a close shot, a tilt, a pan, a reveal.
So treat the photograph as if it was the actor.
Real.
So that's the idea, is to give people the illusion that they're actually seeing a motion picture, even though it's just a
it's not so much an illusion, but you say this is the only representation we have of this moment. What can I do to help people understand that the people in this, if that's what it is, the landscapes, are as complex as what we see today. The great arrogance of the present is we think we know more than the past. And I think the great responsibility of the historian is to bring the past alive.
Ken Burns, a pleasure to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Benner Hill tonight, some standing room if you can get it. This is KIRO FM, Tacoma, Seattle.